Hey guys, it's Ben. Got some updates for you on my Mounjaro weight loss and diabetes deal going on. You might know that last Monday, I was supposed to take another dose of Mounjaro and then report this week on how that dose went. I didn't take that dose last week. I've been having some issues with my right foot specifically, issues that I thought at first were neuropathy, and that I was being told was neuropathy, and everything I read said neuropathy, right? Until I got a couple of comments in my comments section that made me look in other directions and start doing researches in other websital areas, right? There's been a couple of people suggesting that I may not be doing my research properly. I'm doing what I can, you guys, promise you. I promise, but I gotta be honest with you, and I don't know why this is, but it just doesn't seem like there's very many personal accounts. Besides of the normal, right? Besides the same old that you saw from me, that you've seen from a dozen other guys just like me or gals just like me, complaining about the sulfur burps, right? Or about the nausea, right? All these side effects are pretty common, right? And they're all pretty much treated in the same way. The cool thing about watching different people is everybody has a different way of dealing with it, right? And that's what initially got me into watching these videos. And it's what got me into making my own, because I thought, well, that would be a cool thing to document, let people know how this drug works for you, right? Or doesn't work for you, because a lot of times for me, drugs don't work for me. I know, that's a weird thing. For instance, you would think that who in the world is allergic to morphine, right? You guys know that there are going to be people that are allergic to morphine, but what kind of people is that, right? That kind of people is me. I'm allergic to morphine. When I get a morphine shot, and I've taken a morphine shot just out of not wanting to tell the nurses that I was allergic to it, because I wanted the pain to stop like right now. I didn't want to wait one more second. So I didn't tell them I was allergic to it, let them inject me, and then told them, you better get the Benadryl because I'm about ready to have a reaction, right? It got rid of the pain, but that reaction is crazy. That's the way I am with some meds, right? So I wasn't putting it out of pocket that maybe I'm this way with Mounjaro. But it's funny how the human body and the human mind has a way to convince yourself that this medication that is working in so many other perfect ways in your life, it's reducing your blood sugars and it's making you lose weight that you never thought you could lose. It's hard to believe that it could be causing foot pain, right? Because everything you read about Mounjaro is, hey, wait a second, it's supposed to do the opposite with neuropathy. It's actually supposed to be kind of a treatment for neuropathy. And that is documented in the pamphlets and stuff, that it is, that it can be beneficial to people with neuropathy, right? But what you don't read very often, and what you really have to dig, and mostly it's people's personal accounts. So I can't be sure that I'm even in reality world right now. But what you don't read is, in some people, a very small percentage of people, they have a reaction, like an autoimmune response to it, much like I do, with the painkilling drugs that I'm not supposed to have. I have, I think, a reaction with the Mounjaro, right? But you wouldn't know that by looking it up on their website or in their pamphlet or anywhere else. I only found out by hours and hours and hours of going through Reddit and old YouTube videos. Not many of those, there's a couple. Some people talk about it. But one thing that I did notice is the people that do talk about it, some of the people have pretty big channels, right? But those specific videos where they're talking about pain on the medication, they don't seem to do as well, right? They get a couple thousand views when some of their other videos on their channel get tens of thousands of views. So it is kind of weird, but, right? We're not talking about them, we're talking about me. So I finally got out of the headspace that maybe this isn't the right drug for me, and we're gonna figure it out. And that was last Monday when I refused to take the injection. So it's been a week. Okay, so let's get into some comments, right? At Blue Pony Farm 1962 says, maybe reach out to Lily's helpline, ? This seems like something they'd want to know, given that so many people in the trials are also diabetic. I did reach out to the helpline, and I'm sure you've helped helplines in the past. I've used them from everything, how to repair my phone, and my TV's malfunctioning, and none of them have ever been much use for me. Even this one, the Eli Lilly helpline, wasn't much use. So I did read through their pamphlet. Somebody else said, hey, you should read their pamphlet, right? There are some instances in there that give a long list of side effects, possible side effects, but where they don't really get into like the rare side effects, right? They don't really get into some of the rare ones, and maybe not so rare as it turns out. After going through Reddit and all these other places, I found literally hundreds of other reports of people having problems with pain in their feet, pain in their ankles, pain in their fingers, right? Pain in their joints or their elbows or their knees, right? And neck pain, all kinds of pain everywhere. And it seems to be about the same kind of pain, right? And it's responsive to the same way mine did after I took this last 7 days off of taking the shot. We're going to talk about that. So yes, I did I did try the helpline, and I did read all the pamphlets and everything that I could get officially, right? There's just not much out there besides the common stuff, right? They do mention that there are some rare side effects that affect very few people, but they don't really get into it, right? They don't really talk about it being an autoimmune or a skeletal situation or anything like that. They just kind of leave it broad-based, right? Maybe that's for a reason, I don't know. You know, here's the thing. Some studies suggest that Mounjaro is actually good for people that have like the nerve damage, right? The neuropathy. Some reports are out there saying that Mounjaro actually improves some people's situations that have these problems, right? Not in my case. In fact, I didn't really have neuropathy before I started Mounjaro. I did a little. I had some tingling in my feet, but nothing drastic. And it was only in the mornings and only in the middle of the night when I woke up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. That was until I started taking Mounjaro and that pain started elevating. And it just seemed to build week after week after week until last week I decided not to take my shot because I simply couldn't take the lack of sleep anymore. I wasn't sleeping all night, any night. The most sleep I was getting was about 2 hours at once. I was waking up every 2 hours, basically. So that was last week, and the week prior to that. How did last week go? How did the 1 week that I've been off go? Went great. The first couple of nights, the first 3 nights, didn't notice much of a difference. To be honest, I was really disappointed. I woke up still 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. Pain got me out of bed. I had to put pressure on the foot to make it stop hurting. And a couple of times I even had to take a hot shower. It's one of the only things that kind of relieves it. So that was the first 3 or 4 days. Let's talk about the last 3 or 4 days. In the last 3 or 4 days, let's just say out of the last 4 days, right? I have slept all through the night, 2 of them. Last night and the night before. You know, some studies out there actually suggest that Mounjaro is good for neuropathy, right? It actually helps improve neuropathy situations in most people, in a lot of people, in the majority of people. See these words, the majority, a lot of people. The majority of people aren't allergic to pain meds. A minority of people like me are, and a minority of people may also have a reaction to Mounjaro. I've been finding all kinds of accounts all over the internet. So you guys, I've done some research, and some studies out there suggest, more than some, suggest that Mounjaro is actually good for patients that also have neuropathy, right? It helps improve their neuropathy situations in some of those patients, right? I had no idea. It's a benefit to people with neuropathy, which means my foot's probably not a neurological problem. It's probably not a neuropathy problem per se, right? Per se. What I think's going on here, and this is the conclusion that I've come to, I came off this stuff last Monday, right? And I found the opposite studies out there, right? I found studies to support the opposite, saying that, hey, Mounjaro is actually good for patients with neuropathy, right? It actually improves their neuropathy in most cases, right? Which was kind of startling to read because definitely not my case. My foot has just gotten nothing but worse and getting worser. I know that's not a word. And as of last Monday, I stopped taking it. And when I quit taking it last Monday, I said on the vlog, I'm going to quit taking it for 4 or 5 days and see how it goes, right? People took me literally and they said, at Randallson714 says, I don't think being off Mounjaro for 4 or 5 days is going to change anything, right? Maybe 4 or 5 weeks, we'll see a change if the med is the problem. And, 4 or 5 weeks, I would say, yeah, I'd probably be cured in 4 or 5 weeks. The half-life of Mounjaro is 5 days, meaning that if I quit cold turkey last Monday, 5 days from last Monday, half of the drug will be out of my system, right? And then in another 5 days, half or more drug will be out of my system. It takes a total of about 25 days for Mounjaro to completely leave your system once you quit taking it, right? So I didn't know this when I made my vlog last week. Now I do, right? Because I did some research and I'm answering this comment specifically because obviously the commenter doesn't know this either, right? So I can't be the only one out there. So I like answering these questions like this, that when I see them after I do my research, they seem like common sense, but they're really not, right? They're really not. I didn't know Mounjaro took 25 days to come out of your system completely, which would explain why maybe I've only had some improvement in my foot, although there has been improvement in my foot. I wonder if that's what you've been waiting for me to say. There has definitely been improvement. Is it 100% better? No, it's not. It is better. I've been able to sleep the last 2 nights, which is a huge improvement. I've been able to sleep almost all night the last 2 nights, only waking up at 4:30 in the morning. Normally I'd be waking up a couple of times a night starting around 1, right? That sucked. I didn't get much sleep. But the last 2 nights I have. Okay, so I've been off Mounjaro for about 7 days now. So that would mean that about half the medication is out of my system with the other half remaining. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another week off of Mounjaro. I'm going to watch what I eat. I'm going to watch what I've taken in. I'm not going to be taking in anything terrible. But I also need to stay cognizant of the fact that I'm not on Mounjaro. Not only is that going to affect my diabetes numbers, that's also going to affect my hunger as well. I've been doing a lot of research this last week and I've come across a lot of weird, like lesser known side effects, right? So for instance, one of the lesser known but still known side effects is muscular skeletal side effects, which basically people that get that kind of feel an all over body ache. It could be like in an entire limb, or like on their right leg, or it could be in their torso. Just an all over body ache basically is what that is. And they can't really pinpoint it down to any specific thing like I did with my foot, right? I pinpointed it down to my foot, but it's always in a different area of my foot. It's the weirdest thing, right? Sometimes it's on the top. Sometimes I can massage it nice and strong like, and other times I can't even touch it, right? It's so sensitive I can't even lay hands on it, right? Just all kinds of weird stuff. Now, things that I found out besides the muscular side effect, which I'd never heard of before this last week, muscle pain, like myalgia, that's a common side effect for a lot of different medications, and it's also a side effect for Mounjaro, just lesser known. It happens in a very small percentage of patients. The one that I think that I have is an autoimmune disorder, maybe not a disorder, but an autoimmune response to the drug itself. Why do I think that? It never really occurred to me, but I did mention in this video that I am allergic to some weird drugs, right? So for instance, right, I can't take morphine. I can't take morphine because I'm allergic to it, right? When I do take it, when I've accidentally been given it, it breaks me out in hives all over. I have no idea why it never occurred to me. But when I first started going up to the 5 milligram shot of Mounjaro, one of the days after I gave my 5 milligram shot, my entire right foot, the top of my foot, all the way up to my ankle and halfway up my calf, I broke out in hives. It turned red. I could barely touch it, right? And it felt like little water bubbles all over my skin, right? It was so sensitive, it was ridiculous. It went away in a couple of hours and I didn't think anything more about it. But that's kind of what happens to me when I accidentally get injected with morphine, right? There has been an occasion where I was injected with morphine on accident because they didn't know I was allergic to it and I wasn't really in my right state of mind at the time of the accident. So they gave that to me. I had a terrible reaction to it. Nothing deathly or anything. It just makes me break out in hives and just generally hurts, right? Hurts the area of injection. And I'm beginning to think that my situation with Mounjaro might be autoimmune. It might be an autoimmune response. So long story short, I'm off it for another week. But we've waited this whole entire time and I didn't tell you. Maybe I did. My blood sugar average was 116 this week. That's down from last week, which is very surprising. I totally expected it to go through the roof, but it didn't. I haven't taken my Mounjaro since last Monday, and it was 116 average all week. So it's been higher and it's been lower, but the average all week, 116. Now, like I said, we're going to keep a much tighter eye on that coming up this week. I'm going to be taking my blood sugar at least 2 or 3 times a day for the next 7 days and see how we're doing, because I really don't want to get back in a situation where those blood sugars are beginning to climb and that A1C's going back up into dangerous territory. So weight last week was 149.4. I'm hoping for 154 this week, you guys. Let's see how we're doing. All right, you guys, 149.4. We're hoping for the big improvement, 155. Let's go. Okay, 149.6. It's progress. It's a gain of 0.2 pounds. So I'll take it, man. We're going in the right direction. And I'm in a good mood. And I'm happy again. And I'm going to keep you updated on this Mounjaro situation. And I can't wait to get in and talk to my neurologist in like 2 months from now. I almost forgot to tell you guys, I finally got my referral to a neurologist. Finally. After waiting for 2.5 months, I finally got it late last week. The problem with that is my appointment's not until the middle of July, which is 2 months from now. So all in all, from the very moment that I needed a neurologist to the time I get to finally go in for my first appointment, it's going to be about 4.5 months from start to finish. And that's just the start. Not from start to finish, just to get to the start. Just till we get figuring out what's going on with my foot, if I haven't figured it out on my own before then. Anyway, you guys, we'll see you next week. Thanks for hanging in there. And let me know in the comments how you're doing on your own personal diabetes or weight loss journey. Give us an update.